Welcome to the tutorial about how to use Pixlr E editor, Photoshop online equivalent freeware for people that want to use alpha channels to combine two images on top of each other, but you only want parts of one image or the other. So the first thing I want to do is to read in kind of the bottom of the two images. Again, if you want to make sure that you're in the correct mode in Pixlr, remember we're using Pixlr E for editor. And I open an image, and this should take me to the directory where I have two files that will be much more visually easy to see that one is different from the other. So what I'm reading in is not actually a baked out texture for UVs. It is instead going to be two images that are very obviously different from each other, but they are variants on each other. So I'm going to read in this one as sort of the background. In other words, I'm going to call this one back, and I've done so by clicking on the information, which is this vertical line of dots. And then I can come in and actually rename this. Instead of background, I'm just going to call it back. And the next I'm going to do is, in case you want to use this sort of easy to use method, you could drag and drop it and do this little trick here. If it lets me. No, it's not going to let me. So always try to fool the machine. So I'm just going to drag and drop it. I could open it as well, but it's it's not going to let me. Okay, fine. So if you've got a folder open, you can actually take these, because they're now separate images. You could, if I can just shrink this down a bit, you could make this something that you just drag and drop the picture onto, and I'll show you how to do. So with this dialog box open, what I'm going to be looking for is the colored version of all these UVs, this one here. And I could have opened two images, selected all, cut, paste, or I could just drag these over on top. And it asks me, do you want to create a new file or add to the current? I'm going to choose adding this to the current, please. So the back image, which is the first one I read in, is locked. You can just click on that icon and it should free it up. And this one I'm going to go into the little vertical lines and rename this to front. And that lets me clearly see that I'm using a front and a back. Now, when you work in Photoshop, you tend to have the layer for the alpha channel right here in the same layer as the color. Now this is where Pixlr differs a bit. What Pixlr has is a mode, and the mode is these scissors. When you click on the scissors icon, you are in the cutout and mask mode, and that's going to help you sort of pick and choose things that need to be the front and leave alone things that would be in the back. And you can use any of a number of methods to indicate what's the front and the back. You could select the faces and take a look at the UV map and see which faces are selected. But this is all about the technique of using alpha channels in Pixlr. So let me get back to that. And when you click on the cutout mask and you've got the image that is the topmost image, which is what Pixlr sees, you turn it visibility off here and you'll see the one underneath it. But this one takes dominance. So this is the one we want to play with. If I go over here to Cutout Mask Selection, I'm now immediately in the mode of dealing with this image's unseen alpha channel. And the tool sets I want to use, and this is another separation from Photoshop, these are no longer the tools I want to use. The tools specifically for manipulating the masks are all up here right under the first menu drop downs for Pixlr. And the default method that you can use is you can draw it, you can use the lasso, you can also use a shape mask, and I'll show you how each of these works. So the first thing is make sure you know which mode you're in. You're either in an additive or you are in a subtractive mode. And I'm going to create the mask. I want to start cutting things out. And so I'm going to grab the pen here and just go over this section. And when I do, it's going to add a bit of red. And the red is not going to change until I'm done painting. So let me just show you what that looks like. So what I've done is while I'm painting, this sort of like takes the mask out. so you can see through it. So if I really wanted these UVs to gain the texture of this section that was belonged to the back, I can just kind of cut it out. Now if I made a mistake, I want to go back and add to the mask, then I get this green color, and the minute I let up on my mouse from holding down the left mouse key and painting, it then subtracts it or adds to the mask, remove from the mask. You got to know which one you're dealing with. So the good news is that it has this kind of undoable history that will that lets you come in and be precise if you need to be. In fact, you can see that this is has an alpha channel or mask on it by virtue of the icon of the scissors now being in this layer. So the best way to go about this is just decide what you want for precision and test each of these. The lasso is pretty good for me to go and just really carefully cut around specific lines and areas that are kind of in tight corners. And it does a pretty good job of that. You can also increase the size of your image right there in the browser just by using this slider. And one of the last ones that you can sort of entertain yourself with or see if you enjoy is this shape mask. So things that are perfect geometry like this square that are in tight areas, you might want to consider the shape mask, because all you have to do is do a nice square selection shape around it and it just takes the whole thing out. And again, all of this stuff adheres to the additive and subtractive properties of the mask. The really good thing about this is that at even this point you can save this image out as a PXZ file, and this can be the projection texture for robot or superhero or whatever you want. And this PXZ file allows you to keep all the information of this having a layer mask, i.e. alpha channel, and continually add to it, subtract to it. It's always in flux. There's nothing really permanent. The other thing that's good about this is that you can save this as a JPEG as well and use it as it is at this very moment as a texture in Maya and see if it gives you what you want. And you can just continually write over it with little modifications until you get what you want. So what's really neat about this, again, is the idea that if you lose your work, whoops, I made a mistake there. I even went in here and I destroyed that and I destroyed that. Why? Why, Scott? Why did you do that? So what you can do is you can come up here to this the area where you've downloaded your PXZ file and just try to bring that right back into the program. I'll show you how to do that. All you have to do is come in here and literally just grab your PXZ file and drop it right into Pixlr, and it comes up complete with the layers you were messing with, and you can go right back into the mode for mask. Again, if you choose any of these, you'll go immediately into changing the color value of this. You're no longer dealing with the mask. There's a real nice clear line of delineation between the two. But the minute you're in mask mode, you use these items up here to do something different. So that should help you out and get you going with your texture, and ask the TA or myself if you have any questions.